That music just doesn't get old to me.
Well, it can.
Well,
If you were to play that all day, every day.
I still only listen to it once a week now.
Once a week, and then when we archive our audio and YouTube it,
yeah,
that's
get
the
a
only
little
time we
dance
hear it.
groove going on here. So apparently we don't have commercials.
Hey, I'm okay with commercial free, but we still want to talk about our sponsor.
Well, of course we do. And should we just bring John on here?
Let's just bring John on here.
Okay, let's see if I
While
can
you're
do
bringing
this.
John on here,
Hey, are you there, John?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Awesome.
Hey, good. Welcome to the show. We're talking. For those of you who don't remember John's voice, this is John with Survival Medical, one of our sponsors and really good friends. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things today, but before we jump into that, we want to talk a little bit about Survival Medical. Now, you guys have the only long-term first aid kit out there. For our listeners who kind of hear us every week but haven't really checked out the website or looked at the products yet, what are your best sellers, and what do you think people need the most as far as preparedness?
That's a good question, Scott. We've started off in the preparedness market, and now we're all over the outdoor industry. So it's hard to say what our best seller is, but as far as preparedness items go, our Alpha and Bravo buckets were designed for your home preparedness plan. We call it the hospital on a bucket. We cover every different aspect of first aid there. The difference in those two products is just your size of your family. Alpha's designed for a bigger, 4, 5, 6 person family and up. The Bravo is designed for, a couple or maybe a single person, or maybe you just have one kid at home. And so those are really designed to be at your, your bug in, your bug out location, and have everything you need if you can't get to a hospital or Walgreens or anything like that for an extended amount of time.
Now, if the hospital's still standing and I just don't want to go spend $500 just to be seen by somebody in instant care or whatever, is this going to have the stuff I can just break it out and use it right away?
It's going to have the products. I can't help you with the knowledge. That's something you'll have to get there on your own. But, that is something that I think is also extremely unique about Survival Medical products. Everything that's in our first aid kits, in our medical kits, these are all hospital quality. And we know that because my other company, the parent company here, we sell the hospital supplies, commodity goods to about 80% of the hospital surgery centers and extended care facilities across the country. And it's literally the exact same products that we sell to them that we then turn around and put in our kits and sell to everyone else.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think a good point that you guys had is that instead of going to the emergency room or heading over to the doctor, get to know your buckets, get to know your kits. So break them open, go through them, get familiarized with what's in there, seal them back up, put them back in the bucket. Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't help you if you have kidney stones, though. You're going to have to go.
Or need your appendix removed, like I did.
Oh,
that's right. We don't have no pain meds in there, so you're going to have to bite a stick.
Good to know. Good to know.
I have a couple of questions for you guys before we get into the topic or topics today. First of all, what do you call a dog with no legs?
Dog with
Useless.
no legs. Well,
Hot dog.
It doesn't matter because he's not coming.
Ha
Call him anything you want. He's not
Someone's
coming.
been eating Laffy Taffy lately.
Okay, here's another one. What do you call a fish without eyes? Anything? Fish.
Oh, jeez.
No eyes.
Without it.
Hey, we've got a couple colors. Should we roll the dice and see what's
Sure,
going on
let's
here?
see what we got.
There's probably audio difficulties. Hello, K-Talk. You're on the air. What's your name and topic?
I had a question
Hey,
for John. The other day on Facebook, I had seen this really, really neat suturing system, which is basically a piece of tape you place over top of the wound, and you pull these plastic tabs. So you, instead of having to do an actual suture and an actual stitches,
Like a zipper?
it closes the gap. Do you guys have that in your kits yet, or are you looking at doing so?
Well, that is, I've seen that exact same that product floating around. I know exactly what you're talking about. What they've really done there, I personally, I don't see the benefit over what we already have in our kit, which is a traditional wound closure strip.
Okay.
Or a steri strip, is sometimes what they're called. It's similar to a butterfly, but a little bit different. But if you look closely at that video that you see going around social media, that really is just a steri strip with a ratcheting system. And personally, I can't see how that has any added benefit for the cost as opposed to pulling the steri strip closed yourself. because you do the exact same thing with the Steri-Strip. And a lot of people don't realize that's a great question. I really appreciate that caller's question. A lot of folks ask, about traditional sutures. And guys, doing a traditional stitch is a difficult thing, okay? It takes some training. It takes a lot of practice. I'm not saying it's impossible to do, but it takes some practice. Your average Joe isn't going to stitch up their buddy in an emergency situation for the first time and it look real neat.
Yeah, you probably don't want to do that in the field.
That's right. A Steri-Strip, however, most medical professionals will tell you that anything under a 4 inches and less, that's a huge gash, 4 inches and less, they'll typically use a Steri-Strip. And it's the exact same Steri-Strips that are in every single one of our kits. From our $14 kit for the ultralight backpacker all the way through our Alpha bucket, every single kit has Steri-Strips in it. I'm a big believer in them. They're an awesome product, and you can close a wound so neatly and so nicely without any medical training. It's really just extremely intuitive.
Nice. Perfect. Thanks for the call, Jason. That was a great question.
No problem.
We've got another line ringing. Oh, he keeps ringing, and then now he's back off again. So feel free to call back in. Now we can take your call. But yeah, that was a great question. My opinion is, it's not necessary to suture in the field. If you're in a long-term emergency, okay, then maybe it'd be a good idea to learn some of those types of skills. What do you think, John?
That's the kind of thing that every medical professional you talk to is going to have a different opinion.
Okay.
All I can speak is my personal experience. I've had a lot of nasty cuts and a lot of hard-to-fix places.
You've been in knife fights there, John. Is that the problem?
No.
Well, yeah, I actually have been shanked a couple times.
I know a little backstory about John here that I don't think everybody knows. So John used to live up in the mountains. He was a homesteader, totally off-grid, right, John?
Yeah.
Now, one of the unique things about John is that piece of land that he had actually had a beaver lodge on it, and he was in a fight with an angry beaver. And he lost a couple fingers, and the only thing that saved him were his Duluth trading pants. Okay, that's a lie.
I was about to question that here for a second. Okay,
I wish that was you, though. That would have been a funny story.
Looks like our caller has come back. Let's see who this is. Hello, K-Talk, Purple Talk Radio. Do you have a topic for us or a question?
Yeah, a question.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
There's so many drugs. I'm talking about legal drugs that people are on, and if you're going to get off of them, I mean, we'd even put statin drugs on that everybody thinks is saving them. That if you don't taper that, you will be in other physical trouble. And, diabetes, quite common. Generally, if you go on a starvation diet, you can live quite a while with diabetes, but I just was going to ask your guest what they recommend for such things as statin drugs and a lot of the other common pharmaceuticals that people are on.
That's part of your preparedness kit? Is part of your emergency supplies?
Who was it? Clinton, I think, had problems with getting off statins, but hey, a lot of these pharmaceuticals that people are on, for whatever their particular disease or ailment they have is, a lot of them have consequence for going cold turkey on them, and but whatever. And as far as the preparedness end, I think just the simple rule, protection from the elements. I mean, chill factor is a pretty important thing. I mean, essentially, you can be taken out real quick if you can't get protection from hypothermia. But number one, protection from the element. Number two, hydration. Excuse me. And food's way down on the list, as you're well aware, but maybe your listeners are not. I mean, I got a layer of blubber. It takes me quite a ways.
We all have a little bit of that, but that's not a bad thing. I call mine my 72-hour kit.
I call mine my 3-month supply. I think the key though is going back on the medications. Let's
Yes.
let John answer that question. What do you do about those pharmaceuticals if you've got prescriptions? Say disaster strikes, you start running out of those. What do you do?
I wish I had a better answer here, and it's hard to answer this. And I get this. I ask this a lot when we do preparedness expos. It's a very common question. Unfortunately, your caller's right. There's not a good answer. But suffering is going to be the result. The only good answer is to prepare for it now.
Exactly. That was just what I was going to say.
If you can start to get your body to adjust and start the step down on the dependency of those drugs now, there are a lot of natural alternatives, and those natural alternatives are that's a sustainable solution. Okay, the addiction to these pharmaceutical drugs. There's no answer for that in a collapse type situation.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're right. If you have to step that down, depending on what that drug is, in an off grid or a grid down situation, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible. And he's absolutely right when it comes to diabetics. That's a hard one to look at. If you have a diabetic in your family, that you need to do some serious research there for your preparedness plan. There were some instances in World War II where they found some solutions by extracting insulin from animal sources. If I had a diabetic in my family, I'd sure be doing some research on how they did that. But he's right, a low-caloric diet with extreme reduction of any type of sugar or carbohydrate is what you would have to do in an emergency situation there. If you went from insulin injections today to no insulin tomorrow, it's going to be difficult. My thought is you've got to start now. If you're starting that process, once the flag's gone up, things are going to be extremely, extremely rough.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the comment I would have to say is that the way we prepare now is starting eating better, staying away from prepared foods, from processed foods. It's the sugar that is causing the problem with diabetes. That's the main issue.
Well, and if you watch all the nutrition,
right? Nutrition
all the
shows.
nutrition shows,
Mm-hmm.
they talk about how.
Follow-up question?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. There's so many, I think, Class 1 narcotics are pretty tightly regulated, but do you know if I guess you would have to get a physician that was sympathetic to having enough drugs to taper, as if statins, to at least taper, if you had a cutoff of the supply of those pharmaceuticals, is that allowed by law, or do they have them in place where you can't have them, put away and where you at least could taper?
You're onto a really good track there. I'm not sure, and I wouldn't want to speak to the legality of it, but I can tell you that there are a lot of great resources out there to research the shelf life, the actual shelf life, not the printed shelf life of drugs. You can look those up if you'll just do a quick Google search there. There's a couple of good books that you can have in your library so that you can see the actual shelf life of those items. And then I would advocate, having that conversation with your doctor. There are a lot of doctors that I've heard of that are more than happy to help with that. I think that's a question best suited for the prescribing doctor in that scenario.
Yeah, great,
and I think
great
they
question.
can find
great
a
comments.
PTR at the library, where people can at least get some idea, that what the side effects of these things are if you go cold turkey on them, because they're quite severe.
Absolutely. Great thing. Thank you for the call. I'll let you go here.
One of the things my wife's done, she's got a lot of different prescriptions that she's got to take for some interesting chronic issues she has. But she's gone around with all of her doctors and her specialists that she has to work with, and she's explained to them, hey, I'm worried about emergency preparedness. I'm worried about what happens if I can't get in here for a month, or if we're traveling and we're far away, having to get refills. Is there any way I can get an extra 30-day supply? Mm-hmm. And so all of her doctors have prescribed her that. And then she's worked on tapering down so that now her normal 30-day supply has turned into a 40-day supply and a 50-day supply. Yep. And so, by getting her body regulated to a lower dosage and and improving her diet, she's actually lengthened those lifespans for those medications.
And I think in some cases you can ask for a 3-month supply.
Mm-hmm.
90
Yeah,
days.
there's a few things like the migraine medication. She has a 3-month supply.
I just went to 10 different doctors, and I've got a 2-year supply of Viagra now. So I got that going for me.
So you got 2 pills?
You got some. You guys are just on the same wavelength.
We are. I've
know,
only got a 1-year supply, so I need to work on that. But I think the important thing here is we need to learn. We need to learn. We need to learn. You know, the more we educate ourselves and research, the better equipped we are for whatever scenario could come. And if we're not finding these things out now, the time when the crap hits the fan or when the feces hits the vertical oscillator, however you want to put it, it's too late to start researching then. You need to be researching now.
And I think it may very easily come a time when, sure, maybe you can still get your prescriptions, but you may not be able to get them as easily or as readily. And the supply chain will start to diminish, and you won't be able to get what you need exactly when you need it.
Guys, the naturopath's got to jump in here, okay? There is a natural solution for any prescription that's being made. The difference is prescriptions aren't made to heal you. They're made to keep you dependent.
Yep.
And so the natural alternative, on the other hand, will actually help and assist your body in true healing. And it's also replenishable. It's a sustainable resource. Some of them may be more difficult to get to than others. There are some powerful herbs that only grow in certain regions. But, you know, the fact of the matter is with greenhouses and that sort of thing, we can change that too. It's a matter of how much effort you want to put into it. So, you know, the reality is if you're on a bunch of drugs now and you're on an allopathic medicine path and you're looking at a preparedness plan, my advice would be get off the allopathic path and get off of those drugs now and go to a good naturopath. You know, you guys are really lucky down there in the Utah Valley. There are dozens of good naturopaths down there. There are a lot of great alternative medicine clinics throughout the Wasatch. There's an absolute ton of them. I'd say one of the best concentrations of good, high-quality alternative medicine medical professionals is in the Wasatch Front. You guys have no excuse not to go and find a good doctor there that can help you with those things in a way that's replenishable, in a way that's sustainable, and in a way that's more healthy.
Yeah, that's a great point. And what's your opinion, John, on essential oils?
They're great. You know, there's a lot of crazy things being said that takes away from the true power that's there. But there is absolutely, you know, a huge healing power in concentrated oils of plants. There's no doubt about it. It's existed for thousands of years. I've seen too many incredible things happen with it. You know, I would advocate folks to look around. A lot of times folks spend a lot of money for a name brand. There's a lot of small regional companies that make oils that are every bit, if not higher quality than some of the big brands that people pay a lot of money for. It's also not hard to make at home. You can get the distillers and the kits yourself to make your own and order the raw ingredients, and then you can really know what the concentration is and what the quality is because you're regulating and controlling it.
Yeah. I was just
going to say that's a really good point. I mean, if you're taking care of it yourself, obviously, first point is if you're getting it locally, it's going to have more local combatants that you will benefit from. Especially like my favorite is local honey, local raw honey.
Absolutely.
It helps me with my allergies every
because
season.
it's sourced right from here where your allergies occur. Yeah,
and one of the hardest things I found is there's nobody that does pollen locally.
Okay,
but if I go up to Trenton, Utah, which is up by Logan, I can get pollen.
Actual bee pollen,
and it's close. It's as close as I'm going to find to Salt Lake Bountiful as anything else. But you know that the properties there, like I used to sneeze like 10, 20 times in a row. You know, now I'm down to about 3. You know, because I'm taking the local natural solution. And And
instead of something from California or Mexico or
nothing,
or nothing at all. Yeah.
or an Allegra or one of those
There you
over-the-counter
go. Yeah.
things, right? They'll help for 24 hours, but they're not building an immunity in my body.
Exactly.
They're not
They're not
helping
solving
me.
the problem. They're just covering the symptoms.
Exactly. So they're trying to get me to go buy another bottle. That's the whole point. Whereas, one of my goals eventually is to get some more land, move out to my own piece of property, and do my own beekeeping. I would love to have bees. I would love to have my alpaca ranch. Everyone laughs at me because of that, but dude, there's so many things that we can do that sustain our lives in a better way. And I think that's one of the topics that we're trying to talk to about today is what we can do to be better prepared all around. Whether that's certain books, whether that's certain classes, there's so many different resources out there. I think a lot of people freeze up and they don't know where to start. For my wife, she wasn't a prepper at all until I got her to read some books. And then she's like, oh, I see why you do what you do. This makes sense. And now she's more vigilant than I am. Like she actually spreadsheets everything. And so we've got almost a Dewey Decimal System of emergency supplies. She's the little librarian for our surplus, our stockpile. Right?
What books were those, Scott? Which books did you get hand to Jeff there? That really
I'm afraid to
helped
say one of them because I can't stand the author now, but Julie Rowe is one of them. And Julie did a great job of waking up a lot of people, but I think she kind of missed the mark going forward. But then I got her to look at My Side of the Mountain. She got about a third of the way into the book and lost interest, and I'm like, no, this is such a good book. Yeah. And so then I made her watch the movie, and I kind of regretted that because the movie was just horrible. But as a 10-year-old kid, I loved that movie.
Well, I've got a question here before we, I guess, get into books. This came to my mind. I really wanted to ask you this, John. I think one of the biggest problems I'm seeing in my own personal family life and people I'm close to is anxiety is a big issue right now. Taking anxiety meds. What can we do naturally, or I just want to tap into your knowledge, to help minimize anxiety? I mean, for me, like Scott said, prepping itself, for me, minimizes anxiety. But it's not always just a physical condition. It can be, I guess, a chemical imbalance or whatever. But what's your advice, sir, John?
Well, there's varying degrees. The important thing when looking at an alternative medicine of any type is to look at the whole system. So the first thing we want to do is go to the root. Surely at the root of someone's anxiety, there's a input that is causing that anxiety. I think a lot of times we have a detachment in our society where we don't know how to stop and breathe and check in. And so I'd start there.
So you're saying anxiety is normal? Anxiety is,
that would be my opinion, but I think that the how we deal with it is the issue.
Right.
I think all of us experience anxiety in varying degrees, and depending on how we deal with it, it can be a very, very terrifying thing. And by no means am I downplaying the reality of anxiety and panic attacks and those sort of things. I've had friends and family and people that I've had in my clinic that have all experienced that in a terrifying manner, for Pete's sake. I'm not downplaying at all, but the way that we deal with it habitually is what creates that. And so I'd start somewhere very basic, and I'd say, a lot of your local communities, you can go to a meditation class, and just being aware of breathing. That simple practice of meditation can really help those things out. I'd start there. There's a lot of great plant materials that can help with that too. If it's very serious and you're having a full-on, like, holy smoke, you're in it, valerian root is a plant that is extremely powerful, I would not advise taking it without visiting with your local naturopath there. But a naturopath can help you there and have you some. Another great one that you can use without going to the doctor is go to your local herb store, health food store, get some Bach flower remedy called Rescue Remedy by Bach Flower. I've seen this be successful with 60-70% of patients that I've seen that, came in that were coming off of, Xanax prescriptions and that sort of thing. It's Bach flower rescue remedy is an absolutely incredible plant mixture that I've seen do incredibly powerful things.
So that's funny that you brought that one up, though. So when right after last PrepperCon, we were missing $35,000, and I was freaking out because we still had bills to pay, and I'm like, where'd it go? So I went into this major anxiety, stress-ridden panic attack, and the interesting thing, and I didn't even talk to John about this, but I'd heard Rescue Remedy is a phenomenal product. Mm-hmm. So I went and got it because I didn't want to just go on some opiate or one of the normal standard doctor solutions. I wanted something natural that would help my body regulate itself. And so I went and I grabbed Rescue Remedy, and I took it for about 2 weeks, as needed. But that was the only thing that's ever helped when I've had a panic attack or anxiety attack. I'd never had one to that level. But now if I'm getting anxious,
you feel that anxious.
If I feel that anxiety starting to spike, mm-hmm. I'll go grab my Rescue Remedy, take a couple drops, throw it in my water, and
that's a good idea.
And
hey,
boom.
we got the phone line ringing here. Should we take a call?
Yeah, let's gamble.
Hello, you're live on Prepper Talk Radio. Did you have a question or comment for us?
No, I wanted to know, somebody in my family has atrial fibrillation where it'll come and go. But then they put you on, the warfarin is very bad.
Yeah, that's bad for you.
But they have Eliquis, and that is crazy. So what do you do for that?
That's a tough one.
Ignore it?
What do you think, John?
I'm sorry, I was kind of breaking up. I couldn't quite hear you.
She's wondering about atrial fibrillation. What can you take for your heart to strengthen your heart to get it in better shape? When you're at that stage.
Again, there's a ton of plant-based materials that can help these. The problem is, if I answer that question directly,
become a doctor.
When you're talking about natural medicine, you can't look at a symptom. There might be 100 other things going on with that family member that we have to look at the whole system. And so if I answered that one question directly, I might, give you the advice that, oh, hey, take this plant, this can help. But not knowing the situation, it might be hurting something else. What I can tell you is, generally speaking, for heart conditions or any type of heart therapy, there's a half dozen different plants that I use when I was practicing on a regular basis that I've seen do phenomenal things with people. So in a generic sense, to not answer that directly, cayenne pepper is an absolutely wonder drug. When people ask me, hey, what's your top three if you've got three plants that you're stockpiling for your natural remedy medicine cabinet, cayenne pepper is one of them. Externally, it's a great hemostatic agent. Internally, there's not a whole lot that it doesn't help with, because it's a vasodilator, and when it opens up those vessels, it's super oxygenating the blood because of that dilation process that happens. And as soon as you have that process happening, more oxygen going through the system, healing is happening. And so whether that's, helping with heart conditions or whether that's, helping with the inflammation from arthritis or gout, it's got a lot of different applications there. What I would remind folks is, all of these great prescription drugs, at their roots, it's plant-based medicine. They've done a lot of things and altered, but we can go back to that root and find sustainable solutions. That's really my point. And for those specific answers, again, there in the Wasatch Front, you guys have an incredible concentration of extremely well-educated, extremely talented, and extremely caring alternative medical practitioners there. Reach out, find one, and pick their brain, be their friend, go see them, and change that dependency from an allopathic traditional medicine now and change it over to something that's more sustainable long term and overall going to be better for your body.
Okay. Do you know when he went from North Ogden down to Layton? No, I don't see any. They killed so many of these alternative medicine people off in the last 10 years.
Yeah, you're right. So, and I'll have to. I'll tell you what I can do is on Prepper Talk page, as soon as we're done, I'll pull the guy's name up. there's actually there's a chiropractor right there in that north Ogden Layton area that I actually met at, I believe, PrepperCon. And I visited with him a dozen times. He's a brilliant man, and I can't remember his name right now, so I tell you what we'll do is, if you'll get on the Prepper Talk page after the radio show, I'll send it to Scott and Shane here and have them post it for you.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
How can I call you after?
I'm sorry, what was your...
How can I call you after? What's your number after?
Well, why don't you go to the Prepper Talk Facebook page, and we'll share some information there, and we'll also give you a link to Survival Medical's Facebook page as well. Does that work?
Well, I don't have a computer, no.
Okay.
Oh.
We don't want to give the private information out over the air. So
Well, don't you have a number for me to call one of you afterwards?
we don't. So we do everything on air and on digital platform for easier communication.
Well,
So
I can give my number off the air if I can.
we
call
can't
back.
go off the air today
it's just the
because
two of us
our our Simian radio backup system is broken, so we're not even able to take breaks. Today.
We'll leave some information behind for you if you call into the station. Not this number, but call the station number, not the call-in line. And we'll leave some information behind for you that you can get in touch with us.
The peppers, and okay, so.
Yep.
Sometimes I have to later.
What was your name? And I'll just leave some information behind for you.
Well, it's for somebody else, but this is for Helen.
Helen, okay. All right.
Call.
All right. Thank you very much for your call. I sure appreciate you. You had some really great questions, and we'll continue on with this topic a little bit. I know we're kind of all over the place today. We don't have any commercial breaks today, so I think we've already missed one break. So what I wanted to do here is maybe, since we talked a little bit about PrepperCon, it's coming up again. Let's use this little pause here to maybe talk a little bit about PrepperCon again.
Absolutely. So PrepperCon is April 21st and 22nd at the Southtown Expo Center here in Sandy, Utah. Now, this year, we're pretty excited. We've got Survival Medical actually is one of our main sponsors there. So they'll be front and center right there when you get in. You'll see their booth. Go talk to John. But our hours are a little different this year. We've traditionally been 9 to 8 Friday and Saturday. This year, write this down, it's 11 to 10 on Friday. So 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Friday. That way, if you're getting off work, you can still come down. We'll have discount tickets in the afternoon, last few hours of the day. And then Saturday from 9 to 8.
Okay,
now,
I just wrote it down. It's written down.
So it's 11 to 10 on Friday, 9 to 8 on Saturday. And we have two really amazing people. We've got Nicole Appelian, and we've got Alan Kay from Season 1 of Alone, and she's from Season 2 of Alone. She's actually a PhD. She's a doctor. She's a naturopath. She's not a full naturopath. I better stop
but
right
she's
there.
A doctor.
But she is a
doctor.
medicinal plant use expert. They run a survival school. Well, really, it's more of a wilderness living school. Alan, he's got a police background, so
law
he's
enforcement and
law
as well
enforcement
as tactical training, I guess, too.
He does
defense
tactical
and stuff,
training,
yeah.
so they're going to do a couple classes at PrepperCon. We've got a lot of first aid training at PrepperCon. We've got the Hurricane Simulator, which we've been able to get the price point down on that, so that's going to be you can get your whole family through there for $15.
Cool.
So it's a lot of fun. We've got over 200 vendors that are going to be there. Everything from alternative energy to medicine to food storage to water filtration, water storage.
Nicole and Alan are going to be teaching classes as well.
They're going to be teaching classes. They're going to have
a panel
booths,
too,
and they're going to do a celebrity panel on stage. It's interesting because they're celebrities, but they're practitioners more than they're celebrities.
If you haven't watched the show Alone, they were both in the wilderness by themselves for about 56, 57 days.
Yep.
Surviving just off the land, building their own shelters and such. So some of the favorite questions I've asked them are about their mindset. That's really what survival comes down to, and they would have been just amazing to talk to. So their classes are going to be phenomenal, as well as the panels. Panels have always been my favorite at PrepperCon. Just a lot of fun and you can ask questions and just great to interact with those celebrities and
for those of you who are out of state listening and you're like, man, I can't get to Utah for this, we will be live streaming some of those panels on our Facebook page. Go follow us at PrepperCon on Facebook. So facebook.com/PrepperCon. You can follow it, get all the information. We make most of our announcements go there first before they go anywhere else. So it's going to be bigger than last year. It's going to be better than last year. We've got Prepper Fash again, which is a huge hit. People love it. We showcase all the coolest, latest clothing lines, gear, things that'll help you be better protected. I mean, mosquito-proof clothing, all the way down to wearable tourniquet stuff that you can't tell it's there until you need it. First aid kits that, slide right into your pocket. Like my favorite one is the Survival Medical, backcountry, the ultralight. It fits into any bag. We'll have 3V gear there. They've got some of the best backpacks and things. We've got bug out gear. And while I'm not a big bug out guy, this stuff, it's funny because all your bug out gear is also your perfect camping gear.
Yeah,
and that's where I geek out is like, man, they're sleeping bags that go to negative 70 degrees if you need them. Sleeping bags that go to negative 40 if you need them.
Now,
You're not going to find this type of stuff at your regular sporting goods store.
Now, Urban Survival is going to be there, correct?
Yep, they're going to be
doing the
our
knife fighting
tournament
competition as well.
So we're going to have the knife fighting tournament's going to be there, but they're going to be doing interactive hand-to-hand combat all day long. So you'll be able to go learn that, and that's free with the price of entry.
That's a lot of fun.
So $15 gets you through the door. You can buy tickets online starting next week, discounted, but that's at preppercon.com. But follow our Facebook page. That's where you'll find everything first.
So if you need to get work off, do it now.
Request a time off.
And it's just Friday. Well, unless you work Saturdays. But if you work weekends,
you really need to be there both days.
Plan on being there.
You can get both days for $25.
The classes alone are far worth more than the $25 for 2 days.
Oh yeah, we've got about 80 classes we're going to have this year. Last year we did 110, and it was just too much, too hard to manage all that. But we have more classes than any of the other expos in the area that do preparedness. But we also have more fun than anywhere else. I mean, this is the most exciting preparedness expo. We come at it from a point of knowledge, of fun. Prepping is not scary. A lot of people think it might be, but it's not. This is a fun place to start. So if you're new to prepping, it'll be a wealth of resources for you. You'll get a lot of training for free. There's some additional advanced classes you can do. But all in all, you're going to have more fun going to the booths and learning from the different vendors about their products, about how they work, about what's going to benefit you the most. That's the key there.
Okay, I got a couple lines ringing here. Let's go ahead and pick them up. You're live here on Prepper Talk Radio. Did you have a question or comment for us?
Yeah, hi. I do. And that gal who just called, I've got a bunch of names for her and numbers if she...
Okay.
Okay?
I wish we could take some numbers for you. Maybe you could call into the station line and give those to Kristen.
But you know what? I can't leave a message because nobody's answering there.
Oh, I did hear the line ringing in the background. Could you try again? In about 15 minutes, someone should be here.
And they should be there. But how will we tell this lady that I've got the information?
Well, Scott and I will be hanging around as well. We'll let her know. We'll let her know. So I appreciate it. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a producer, and we're just trying to do this ourselves here.
Okay, but I have some amazing information for her.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, there we go. So let me hang up. So we are without breaks here, and that's okay with me because we got more content, and we're happy to continue talking. We were, I guess, talking a little bit about anxiety before we went off a little bit of a tangent. And today I had prepared a little prepper tip. My prepper tip today, what I call survival wisdom, was about tactical breathing. So I think that fit in perfectly with the anxiety thing. So I'll just share that real quick, and then we'll get back on topic. John, what do you understand as tactical breathing? What's tactical breathing?
I'm not sure where tactical breathing is, but I'm an absolute proponent of breath awareness, and I work a lot of different alternative medicine theories that talk about the healing power that can happen through concentrated, focused breathing, and I've seen it do incredible things. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say about tactical breathing.
Well, my method of tactical breathing, it's basically a breathing pattern. It's breathing in, holding, and exhaling, and then repeating. And it can be used, of course, to calm anxiety. It can be used for, if you're nervous, which is what I'm nervous on a regular basis, or if you're out shooting as well. So what I've developed for myself, I breathe in, and I count to 5. And I'll hold for 5 counts, and I'll exhale for 5 counts. And I'll focus on that, then I'll repeat that. And it's, I think for each person to say, okay, do it for 10, count of 10, do it for a count of 4, it's very personal. You need to develop that for yourself. And even change it up depending on how you're feeling for the day. That's what I do. So I'll breathe in, hold, and exhale. And that's what I know as tactical breathing. So just a quick tip here, and we'll get right back on top.
Makes a ton of sense to me, Shane. I know when I grew up competitive shooting. My dad was a competitive marksman in the Army, and I grew up shooting competitively in 4-H programs. And that was exactly how my dad had taught me how to breathe. Mm-hmm. And then just as far as anxiety and healing goes, what you did there is you just brought awareness to your breath. And as far as anxiety goes, what you're doing is you're pulling your focus off of whatever the trigger event was to a very simple thing that it's a very powerful rhythm to pay attention to in your body. And the basis of all meditation classes are basically going to be the same. You're bringing that awareness to your breath and the space in between your breaths. And it's just a matter of that concentrated focus. If you can focus on that breathing, everything else can kind of fall away. So I can absolutely see how that has a lot of different uses, both tactically shooting, that kind of stuff, and just day to day. If you were feeling that anxiety come on, you're right. It's going to be different for everybody, but just bring that awareness, whatever that is, to your breath. And I think that's a great tip.
Yeah, I think if we do that a little bit every day, then you'll remember to, again, grain it in your memory so you can recall it right when you need it. So, got another caller here. Let's go ahead and take that. Yes, you're live here on K-Talk Radio. Did you have a question or comment for us?
Just wanted to find out what he recommends as a dietary regime.
Okay. Did you have a comment on that? And dietary as in trying to lose weight or just eat more healthy, or what's your goal?
No, simply to handle all the health issues that the preppers are dealing with.
Okay.
I was invited up to a prepper conference up in Ogden, and I looked over that crowd and I said, these men couldn't survive more than 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, fitness is a big, big deal, and we talk about that on a regular basis. But as for diet, absolutely. John, what do you think is the ideal diet?
Well, heck, again, we're going to go back to, everybody's body's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so to answer that in one broad stroke of generalizations, I don't have a good answer. I can tell you that as far as from my education background in naturopathy, colon health is something that we study a ton of. That's the basis of health in the body is based on our colonic functions. And there's things that can block and damage the colon, and things that can hurt it. Basically, I would say the more you can, let's start here. Food isn't the same as what food was 30 years ago. Okay, A piece of lettuce today is not the same as a piece of lettuce 30 years ago. A carrot's not the same. And I'm not talking about genetic selection and hybridization. I'm talking about the soil health in America. And so I think if we're going to talk about dietary, we have to go back and talk about what that food is we're eating. Real food grown in real dirt with real sunshine. If I'm going to give a generality out there, that's where I'd start. We have a habit of eating processed foods, and the closer we can get to eating a real plant or a real animal-based nutrition that came, as close to that source as possible. The less processed, the better.
And I think the simplest way to understand what it means to be not processed is it's not going to have a nutritional facts label on it.
There we go.
Right? If it's a packet of farm-grown fish, it's going to say it's a packet of farm-grown fish.
Right.
If it's a trout you caught in the wild, there's no label on it. Right. If it's a chicken you grew in your backyard, there's no label on it.
Right. The ingredients should be one content.
If you walk through the produce section of your grocery store, which used to be the largest section, it used to be like a fifth or even larger of the store. It's now relegated to maybe 1/10 or less of the whole store. Those products, your fruits, your vegetables, they don't have a nutritional label on it because it's the whole ingredient. It's natural. It's not processed. As soon as you get into the boxed foods, which is where I've kind of lived my life for far too long, and that's what I'm pulling away from and getting back to eating less processed foods, more whole foods. That's when you're going to see more medical benefits from the nature side of things. When When you work with Mother Nature, man, she's your champion, right? When you work against her, she laughs at you, right? She really does. And preppers, a lot of us, we're getting laughed at right now by Mother Nature because we're building our bodies into this fortress of ineptitude, right? We're unable to withstand Mother Nature when things happen. If there's an earthquake, how many of us are going to die from a heart attack because we're out of shape, we're not eating the right foods, because we're morbidly obese? And we tell these stories, and I'm sorry I'm going to bag on a lot of you right now, but I've been in this boat and I'm working my way out of it. We're like, oh yeah, I can take on the apocalypse, or when the earthquake comes, it's all going to be fine and dandy, and I'm 100 pounds overweight. Whoop-de-freaking-do. I'm going to be the one that's saving my neighborhood. No, you're not. You're going to be the one that dies of a heart problem because you're going to overexert yourself within the first 35 minutes, and now you're no longer a resource for everybody. You know, the only way we can really rebuild and the only way we can really resolve, to go forward with a new community and a new government and a new, improved situation is to take care of ourselves. And I see what we're eating, and most of these people that I'm talking about, Shane, obviously you're completely excluded because you're fit as a fiddle over here.
Not quite,
but we're sitting there. I see you sitting down at McDonald's. I see you sitting down at Burger King. I see you sitting down at every fast food shop, and I'm talking to people that are overweight and out of shape, and I don't see you guys going for walks. I don't see you going out and working in your garden. I don't see. That's where we need to get back to. That's Shane. You say this all the time.
Yeah.
To prepare for the future, we need to go back to the past. Right. Look to the past to see what people used to do. My grandparents are ridiculously fit. My grandma's in her late 80s, and she can do the splits. She stretches every day. She walks every morning.
In the garden
she doesn't work her garden as well as she used to, but she has a few pots, right, that she works those. And I think that's the key is her health and longevity, even though she's got other health problems, it's much better because she is taking care of her body first.
She's not making the problems worse by eating the wrong foods.
Yeah, and I've been eating the wrong foods. And so when I'm ranting like this, I'm pointing the finger squarely at myself as well, because I'm angry that I allowed myself to get this out of shape. I'm angry at myself because I allowed myself to get high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all these things that I shouldn't have had I been taking care of myself like I used to, but I got lazy. I quit being awake and alert to the physical needs of my body, and I think that's one of our biggest gaps is a lot of us are out here thinking, oh yeah, what I'm doing is helpful. What I'm saying is helpful to so many people. Well, it is, but what am I really going to be able to do when the need arises? Because now I'm limited by my own fault.
Limitations. Yeah.
I've created limitations because I haven't taken care of myself. And
well, I think a big thing that ties into that, Scott, and kind of ties back into what the caller was saying is specifically preparedness. When we talk about dietary issues and nutrition from foods, holy smoke, have you paid attention to what's in your food storage products?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I've been studying food storage a ton here over the last 6 weeks, guys, and it is insane to me what's in there. And I fully admit I did not realize how foolhardy I had been in my food storage efforts. I've got what I've now come to realize is a 3-year food pantry full of essentially poison. And I admit I did not research that the way I should have before spending that money on food storage products. Most of these food storages that are out there, you eat that stuff for 4 days in a row, and you're going to be curled up in the fetal position, whimpering. The amount of sodium and MSG and nasty oils that are in these things, holy smoke!
There's only a few ways to get food to last 30 years, right?
Yeah,
well, you should never have food that lasts 30 years.
There you go.
I think that's the biggest problem. You should never have food that lasts 30 years. Let me repeat that. You should never have food that lasts 30 years. It's no longer food, it's preservative.
That's why it's emergency food, right?
Well, you should be working with a year-round pantry, right?
In a garden.
A root cellar's fantastic because now you can take what you've grown, what you know, and put it somewhere where you can access it later during the winter when you're not harvesting anymore.
The way they used to do it.
That's
for thousands of years.
I think we're very foolhardy to put all of our stock into a product solution that you can buy off the shelf. We bought a ton of wheat this year. maybe not a
2,000
ton.
pounds.
We bought 700 pounds of wheat because that wheat. We're being told that our commercial is going to be working again here in a few minutes. But that wheat, I can use it in so many different ways, and it's from a local farm, right? I know what's been put on it. I know where it's been. I know what I can do with it. But yeah, it'll store for a long time, but I don't want it to store for a long time. I want to use it. The whole idea is that we're using what we have.
You can
and
still
we're replacing and replenishing it.
Exactly. You can still have 2,000 pounds of wheat and rotate it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, there is ways to package that where the nutritive quality does stay there with some of these things.
Sounds like you're working on that there, John.
That I might be. There are ways to do that. There are some natural foods like honey, for instance, that has a dang near indefinite shelf life.
Yep.
It's stored in the right conditions. There are plenty of different types of cereals and grains and even with new technology, fruits and vegetables that can be stored in long-term ways. What I was specifically speaking of was some of these meals. They're just holy. I won't name names, but wow, I've got a year's worth of food storage down there that I'd be afraid to eat for more than 2 days in a row. Now that I really know what's going on there.
Yeah.
So,
and even the stuff in your cupboards, in cans with MSG and all that, still kind of the same. We're in the same boat at that point, right, John?
Absolutely, man. It's like Scott was saying. Generally speaking, if it's got a food label in the back, but I will say that there are on the other side of that, there are some fantastic, incredible science that is making up for what another sector of science has done by depleting the mineralization of our soils. There's some incredible science where you can inject via liquid aminos all kinds of incredible healthy proteins and minerals and the like into your processed foods, and you can. There's companies out there that are doing some incredible things nutrition-wise with food that does come in a box. But you're absolutely right. Generally speaking, Whole Foods it's become a thing of the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen because we're all in such a hurry. Let's admit it. That's what's going on.
Well, but here's the neat thing: if you can be in a hurry and you can get a packaged food like a banana, or you can get an unpackaged food like an apple.
That was my breakfast this morning.
Packaged food like raisins, right? They come in cute little boxes.
That's right.
Pouches.
What's interesting is to look at the connection that I'm sure purposely didn't happen, but look at the two things we've talked about really today. We talked about these whole foods and the nutrition that's there, and anxiety and the breathing. Look at how those are related. We're eating prep because we're in a hurry, and we have anxiety because we're in a hurry. Maybe it's our lifestyle that needs to be adjusted in order to really have health and truly be prepared.
And I think that's the perfect way to wrap up the show. Let's adjust our lifestyles to live with less stress, eat better, take better care of ourselves, so that we can be prepared for what's coming. Thank you all for listening to Prepper Talk Radio, and we look forward to talking with you again next week.
Brought to you by Survival Medical.
Yes, it's
the only thing that lasts 20 years that's worth having. Really, it is.
Survival-medical.com.
All right, thanks, John. Appreciate you being on with us.
You bet, guys.
A clean, comfortable room with every